Hello everyone and welcome to the latest in my constructed video series. This is Brian Kibler with StarCityGames.com, and as you can see on your screen, this week we're going to be playing some Modern. I'm playing Modern because with Journey into Nyx coming up, I feel like it is the format least likely to shift too much, at least that I have any cards to play. I don't really have any legacy cards on my account, so it's tougher to actually get some games in online. But we're going to play Modern. I also have Grand Prix Minneapolis coming up in the Modern format, which I am hoping to do well at because I need to pick up some points. but anyway, so I am going to be playing this Naya Zoo deck. It's very similar to the deck that I played at both the Pro Tour and at Grand Prix Richmond, both of which I put up decent but not great performances. I was actually just outside the money in both of them. But I think that the deck has a lot of great tools. And it has actually a pretty solid matchups against, in particular, the three sort of most popular decks in the format, those being Affinity, Pod, and Splinter Twin. Those tools are just an efficient clock and quality removal, along with just reasonable disruption. One of the cards that is unusual in my deck compared to many Zoo decks is Kasali Pride Mage. I think Pride Mage is sort of the unsung hero of a lot of Zoo style decks. At least Naya style Zoo decks, because it provides a reasonable body and with a reasonable ability with Exalted that also provides an incredible amount of utility. One of the important things about playing a creature-based deck that isn't just a sort of a rush deck in a lot of formats is that your creatures can do something. While you can some creatures just attack and block, and that's fine. Kasali Pride Mage offers the ability for a deck that is otherwise sort of a creature-focused and aggressive deck that can take that posture in certain matchups to have answers to a lot of different stuff. It's obviously very powerful against Affinity, where you can kill many of the sort of cheap artifacts they rely on. Be able to take out a Cranial Plating can turn your opponent's draw from excellent to quite poor. Against Pod, be able to kill the actual card Birthing Pod can make it very difficult for them to compete with your higher quality creatures like Naya the Reliquary. And against Splinter Twin, obviously being able to kill the namesake card can be quite powerful. Other than those, the fact that your deck is just a sort of focused, aggressive type deck that has the ability to play sort of longer games with cards like Naya the Reliquary and Thundermaw Hellkite allows you to sort of match up reasonably well against a significant percentage of the field. The main deck cards probably don't require too much explanation. I don't know what's going on with the sort of graphical glitch thing that's making all my cards look weird. It's making my Domries and Knights look special, so I don't mind. But anyway, the basic removal package, Bolt Path, the sort of core removal in many decks in the format. I only have one copy of Lightning Helix. Helix, I think, is pretty bad against many of the decks that I sort of mentioned before. It's good against Affinity. It's bad against the Splinter Twin decks. In general, you're going to end up, being able to deploy a Deceiver Exarch, which makes actual Helix or Bolt quite poor against them. And then against Pod, it's just an inefficient removal spell for a deck that is very grindy. You can actually, it's very difficult to Helix and Scavenging Ooze compared to, say, Bolt and Path. So I feel like the deck doesn't really want that many reactive type cards. And with Domri in your deck, you actually have the ability to have sort of removal effects that don't necessarily clog your hand against controlling style decks. For instance, against Blue-White Red Control, Lightning Helix, Lightning Bolt, Path, they're all quite bad. And you can frequently determine how likely you are to win a game by how many of those you draw over the course of a game. And the ability to sort of cut down the number of purely reactive type cards you have. Even though Helix can go to the face, it's fundamentally a reactive card, and those games, while they can come down to inches, they are more likely to come down that way when you have those cards in your deck. So anyway, sideboard-wise, this is a little bit different than the previous sideboards that I've played. I have fewer cards that are aimed at Storm, because Storm sort of fell, despite being very popular at the Pro Tour, very successful at the Pro Tour, hasn't really had the same sort of metagame impact that the other popular decks and successful decks, like the ones I mentioned before, have had. So I don't have, like, for instance, I had Canonist and Rule of Law in my sideboard in Richmond, and I've removed those to make room for some other stuff. I've also shifted away from Ancient Grudge. I previously had 2 copies of Ancient Grudge, and now I have 2 copies of Stony Silence. Grudge is a high quality card. It's very good against, say, Affinity or any sort of other artifact based deck. but it isn't just devastating in the same way that Stony Silence is. Similarly, Stony Silence offers you tools against Tron decks, which have actually been reasonably popular in Magic Online recently, while also sort of being the Stone Code killer against Affinity. Thalia is my sort of catch-all kind of hate card for a lot of decks. It's not the best card you can have in a lot of matchups, but it's actually quite potent in a number of matchups. You know, it can help disrupt your opponent while you beat them down with your creatures against, say, Blue White Red Control, against some versions of Splinter Twin. It's also, you know, very good against Storm, though, you know, not nearly as powerful as something like, say, Rule of Law. Though the 1/4 guy, the can only cast one spell per turn guy, that guy I actually think has the potential to be very good. Probably better than Rule of Law in a lot of sideboards because A, it's a body, and B, you can't die to most things that they have anyway. You know, when they can only cast one spell a turn and their removal spell is Lightning Bolt, it's basically a Rule of Law that just attacks every turn. It also can be searched up with Court of Calling or Birthing Pod for people who are into that sort of thing. Blood Moon and Choke, the non-creature based threats. I feel really, I'm kind of embarrassed that I have a white bordered Blood Moon in my deck, but I don't want to go get another one. But Blood Moon and Choke as sort of non-creature threats against all of the control decks are quite excellent. I think Choke is really still underrated. You can often just win games single-handedly with Choke against a number of decks. Mind Sensor obviously good against stuff like Pod. Then Linvala and Thrun. All four of these are sort of the flex slots. I feel like these sort of slots are generally fairly solid. Fracturing Gust I like as having a way to sort of just blow out the Boggles decks. It also has applications against Affinity. Batter Skull's kind of a question mark to me. It's very good against a lot of the removal based decks like green black, as well as against Zoo decks or Burn decks or whatever. Though it's probably a little bit slow against Burn. So I'm not really 100% sold in these. Thrun, another just like good threat card against removal decks, and Linvala is a very good disruptive card against Pod or even against Affinity, being able to turn off a lot of their creature abilities like Ravager or Overseer are quite powerful. Modern is a very big format. There's a lot of different ways you can go with your sideboard cards and with your main deck cards, really, and there's a lot of sort of tailoring to what you may expect to actually see. I do think that the three big decks in the format are Affinity, Pod, and oh my god, I'm blanking on it. Splinter Twin, that's the one. And being prepared to fight against those is the most important thing in the format, because I think that those are really the sort of top dogs that have had the most sort of consistent success. And you want to be a powerful, proactive deck fundamentally, but one that is also well suited to playing against those decks. So anyway, let's go jump into the queues. We're going to be playing some 8-player events. We're not going to be playing a daily event because, well, daily events are never actually at the convenient times for me. So let's go and battle.